CWE. You've probably heard of it. You've probably heard of the CWE Top 25. You may know that it's something about security, and you might even know, if you're really up to date, that it has recently been updated. So today I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about what's changed and what's the same in CWE, and does it even matter? CWE. CWE is the common weakness enumeration. So it turns out when bad things happen in cybersecurity, like there's a problem with a smartphone, or a problem with a mail server, a problem with an application, problem with your home wireless router, like you might see in my IoT Hall of Shame, that there is usually some kind of a notice issued into the National Vulnerability Database, or NVD. And that thing carries a score called a CVSS, which is the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, telling you how dangerous this thing is. And it's given a number called a CVE, or Common Vulnerability Enumeration. And the idea is that a CVE describes things in a way that we can compare, so that when we have a problem with our home security camera and we end up having a problem with our office router, that we know that the underlying problem is the same. Maybe the problem is that there's a weakness in encryption, or that it's got a default password programmed into it. So CVE helps us discuss things so that we're talking about apples and apples and oranges and oranges. CWE is the common weakness enumeration. So basically, when we see that we have a vulnerability, like a weakness in a router, at some point somebody goes and looks at the code and says, oh, here's the fix. Here's the code responsible for this vulnerability. And so we describe it in terms of the weakness that the vulnerability exploited. There's a whole bunch of these CWEs. They're maintained by MITRE, cwe.mitre.org. There's around 800, give or take, right now. Some are categories, but basically they describe lots and lots of things that can lead to problems in your software. For the most part, they're about security. Earlier this year, they added some things that are more about quality and reliability, and we'll see more of that as time goes on. But at the current time, they're mostly security problems. So this is an encryption problem. This is a lacking validation problem. This is using an old library problem. This is a buffer overflow problem. So all these kinds of things are listed in the CWEs. So what happened is that years ago, someone said, well, there's 800 of these things. What do I do? There's too many. Where do I start? So CWE Top 25 is an attempt to figure out what are the things you should start with. You shouldn't stop there. If you've already gotten there, you're in compliance, keep going. But if you haven't done anything yet, it's a great place to start. Now, the old CWE Top 25 that was current until a few weeks ago, this list was based on a variety of things. It was based on real-world problems. It was based on National Vulnerability Database. It was based on interviews with big clients that had private issues that weren't necessarily publicized or included in NVD. So it was great in the sense that it took into account a lot of different data forms, but it was a bit subjective. So in 2019, we have for the first time an update to CWE. It was 2011 the last time that the CWE Top 25 was updated. CWE gets updated on a regular basis, but the Top 25, not so often. So this time, what's interesting is that we have a very objective approach. And with that, we might have lost something in the sense that we don't have all this access to private data. On the other hand, we know what the CWE does represent, which is really the code and the weaknesses associated with common vulnerabilities as expressed in the National Vulnerability Database, meaning the real-world security incidents that are actually happening. We take the score, we look at the prevalence, we look at the weight of the impact, how dangerous it is, and we add up to get the top 25. And actually, if you look at the top 25, you can see the relative dangerousness based on the CVSS or score of these items. And you'll see that number 25 isn't nearly as dangerous as number 1, although they're all dangerous, they're all bad, and you should fix them all. The other interesting thing about CWE Top 25 that a lot of people are unaware of is that there is a thing called on the cusp. These are the CWEs that almost made it to the top 25. They were on the cusp of making it. Kind of a bad pun, you guys at MITRE. Bob, I'm looking at you. It was probably you. It seems like something you would do. But on the cusp is what I like to refer to as the honorable mentions, or maybe dishonorable mentions. These are the things that are 26, 27, 28, 29 instead of the top 25. They almost made the top 25. They're almost as dangerous as number 25 is. There's about 15 of these items, 15 or 16, and they're also important. So once you finish the top 25, go to on the cusp. That's the next thing that's important. So if you haven't done anything for security yet and you're wondering where to get started, CWE Top 25 is a great place to go, no matter what kind of application you have. If you're getting close to compliance or you're fully in compliance with the CWE Top 25, take a look at the on the cusp rules, which, by the way, are also used if you're going to do UL 2900, which is cybersecurity for connected devices from Underwriters Laboratory. So that's a great place to go next. Also, just take a look at OWASP. Maybe you're doing web applications, that's a thing you can do. But in general, CWE is a nice, broad security standard. And if you weren't aware of the update, it's maybe a good time to look at your configuration, look at your tools, and make sure that you're doing the latest CWE, because the new CWE Top 25 is based on things that are happening today, not things that were happening 8 years ago. So it's important to make sure that you keep up to date, since the point of the list is to keep you connected to common real-world problems. So make sure that you're up to date and that your tool supports this latest CWE, because if it doesn't, you're kind of in trouble. And as you're growing, make sure that your tool supports the on the cusp rules, because again, they're almost as dangerous as the CWE Top 25, and no matter what, you're going to end up doing them at some point. So any questions about CWE, let me know in the comments below. If you liked it, thumbs up. Subscribe to find out more content. If you want to hear more about any other security standards or other topics, please let me know. Stay safe out there.